Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Campkin. I'm an adjunct professor at University of Western Australia and the Griffith University, both in Australia, and visiting professor at the National Laboratory of Civil Engineering in Portugal. And it's my pleasure to chair this session on ISMAR and integrated water resource management again, but it's a little different to the last session, which was 15-minute presentations. The idea of this session is it's a flash session, so presentations are 5 minutes. So they're very, very quick and targeted. And we have 40 minutes. Now, there were 8 in the agenda, but we're now reduced to 4. So unless any more get added in the meantime, we have 4. So that gives us plenty of time to go through this session. Right. Speakers on the table there, there's a what do you call these things? An egg timer. I assume it goes for 5 minutes. I didn't bring it, no, didn't test it. But just flip that over when you're ready to start, and that should give you an indication when your 5 minutes is up, so manage your time. So, the first presenter will be Greg Woodside. And Greg will present on the integration of stormwater capture at flood management reservoir with MAR in Orange County, California. Thanks, Greg.
So for the guys in the back, that's number 2, abstract number 2. Thanks. So I'm in Southern California in the United States, and the Orange County area is the area just south of Los Angeles. So we are between the cities of Los Angeles and San Diego, if you're not familiar with that part of California. And my co-author is Adam Hutchinson. So the Orange County Water District is a groundwater basin manager. We were set up by the state of California to manage groundwater. And we operate in the Santa Ana River watershed. So we are in the lower part of the watershed. So our western boundary is the ocean. And I'm going to be talking mostly about a dam that's between the upper watershed and the lower watershed. The dam is called Prado Dam, which has a museum named after it also. I'm sure that Prado came first here. So our dam is called Prado Dam, and we integrate Prado Dam's operations with our groundwater recharge system. So we've been doing managed aquifer recharge for about 85 years. We have about 400 hectares of surface spreading basins. So these are in the city of Anaheim and the city of Orange. So those are the blue shaded areas there. So these are surface recharge basins, range in depth from 1 meter to about 20 meters. So we have some pretty deep basins. All of our new basins are real shallow. So the dam upstream, Prado Dam, was constructed for flood risk management. So when it was built, that's why it was built, to control flooding. But we wanted the government, the federal government, to operate the dam so we can capture more water for our recharge system. So the important points here are that the dam was built for flood risk management, not for water supply. But we wanted to modify the operation of the dam for water supply. So we capture now, with our program, we capture stormwater, which comes maybe 15 days a year. It rains about 15 days a year. So the dam doesn't allow storage of water permanently. What they do is optimistically or opportunistically hold water for us and release it more slowly so we can capture it. But if they need to, for flooding control, they'll release all the water from the dam. But we want them to hold it a little bit longer and release it at a rate we can capture it. So we can divert off of the river, so the water flows down the river to us. We can divert 10 to 20 cubic meters per second. That's our capacity to divert off the river. So in a wet year, the flow will come down much, in a very wet year, the flow will come down greater than that. We also have a requirement due to environmental issues. The area behind the dam has a lot of endangered species, endangered birds. So we have an environmental requirement from the government to have a minimum release rate of 10 cubic meters per second, and that occurs in the springtime. So this diagram schematically shows what happens. So the dam has a very large capacity to hold water for flooding. So the dam can hold about 200 million cubic meters. The federal government, who operates the dam, will hold for us 24 million cubic meters. So it's about, maybe a little more than 10% of the storage space of the dam that the federal government will hold water for us. So then the water is released down the dam, it goes down the Santa Ana River to our recharge basins, and we can then infiltrate it into our groundwater basin. So the three main challenges that we had to get over in this program, which took about 30 years from start to finish, is working with the federal government to operate the dam differently to release the water at a rate we can capture it. And again, that's about, in the early part of the winter, that's about 20 cubic meters per second. And then as the winter goes on, if it actually does rain and we get water, then our facilities will start to clog. So the river water brings a lot of sediment, our basins will start to clog, and then our percolation rate will decline from about 10 cubic meters per second down to about 10, 11, 12 cubic meters per second. But again, we have to maintain a 10 cubic meters per second recharge rate so that we can drain the pool quickly enough. That's because if we don't drain the pool of water behind the dam quickly enough, it inundates the natural habitat for the endangered bird. Do you know how I'm doing on time? Because that seems kind of...
That is really slow.
That's really slow.
That's 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay. Maybe that's more 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
So this is our story. It was primarily working with the federal government. So we're a local agency. We're created by the state of California to manage groundwater. We're a local agency. We don't own the dam, so we had to work very closely with the federal government, which owns the dam. And it's worked out very well, but just a series of steps to get through to ask the Army Corps of Engineers to operate the dam differently, and then address the issues of the environmental impact of storing the water behind the dam to minimize environmental impacts of that, and then we did environmental enhancement to offset any impact we would have. And then third, building enough recharge capacity downstream. So, we need to have enough capacity to take water off the river, so that's why we made investments in recharge facilities so we could get up to 20 cubic meters per second off of the river. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Great, thanks very much. What we might do in this session is hold any questions, and if we have time at the end, we'll take questions then. So if you could just take a seat right at the front, and that way we make sure we don't cut into the next program that starts at 3:40.